I am truly honored to be in the great nation of India. It was very touching, especially the last commercial. So, as the final session for our conference. So what I have today for you is information. And I hope I would like to leave you with is a sense of urgency with wisdom. Because what we have today, just as we saw in Pralad's talk this morning, is a tremendous sense of humanality. And that represents change, that represents progress, it represents everything that makes us human. And that, of course, means all of the changes that all of the generations will force upon us. So if we look forward, what I would like to share with you is my perspectives on disruptive innovation, how you can use it, how you can thrive with it. Now, admittedly, I'm from the United States, so I will have United States perspectives. And I invite you to share with me what the Indian perspective is on exactly the same information. So here's the agenda that I have for you today. I think we want to just take a look at. And you're going to see, I think, here the most amazing things, because in this internet world that we live in, absolutely everything is available if you know where to look for it and you know how to read it. So let's look at what is going on outside the bounds of this room and outside of not only the IBM world, but the world we live in general. What does non-disruptive innovation truly mean? What do I mean by the non-traditional competitor? And certainly, I want to leave you with the kinds of things that I believe that we can all do together, partnering for business value to be successful and thrive in this world. You'll hear me use the word interdisciplinary multiple times. And Amit Dave talked very much how all of us are watching the lower jobs, if you will, move to different places, and all of us get to up-level. So let's start with that, and let's just take a look at what opportunity looks like in terms of data in the world today. Now, we have created a lot of information on the planet. And we have created information that is a stack of books going from the Earth to the Sun in 2010. We went past the Sun in 2011, and we're going far past that in 2012, and we'll continue. Now, clearly, what it would represent to me is if we look at traditional workloads, they are continuing to be a good business, but without a doubt, the growth curve of the new generation workloads, without a doubt, is the opportunity that is in front of us. Now, we as a human race are creating just an immense amount of magnificent information, and we're doing it with high-definition sensors. You realize that the cell phone phenomena created the componentry at a low enough cost that we can literally create satellites. And what are the cameras that we're using? What is the componentry, the cell chips that are actually running a lot of that? It's based on the commoditization of mobile, which has created such a wide spread in cost and availability that we have these capabilities. And we're building these incredible information workflows, which are more than just an infrastructure. They are highly information-rich, real-time streaming, visualization, and tremendously sophisticated. And this is what I mean by interdisciplinary. Because it's no longer possible just to look at just an infrastructure. You have to, in addition to that deep skill, have the ability to see this entire stack, to be able to perceive where it is going and how it works together. Now, one might say, well, it has spawned a lot of things in our life. Certainly, we can see today from the possibilities of what our analytics do. The blue line here represents a prediction from IBM Analytics of where the traffic patterns in a city are going to be 10 minutes in advance. The black line is where it actually was. So I think you can conclude there's a degree of accuracy and a confidence level. Now, you might ask yourself, now, how do you actually do something like that? Is that something that we might potentially build over time? Yes, probably in partnership, because it's not the kind of thing that you build a stack like that all yourself, but you find new partners, or you start to integrate together to create these things. And I have a message for those of us who will have children. You know, our young people today, and of course, what does every young person really want if they really could have what they want? You know, Dad, can I have an eye touch? You know, this kind of thought. And they've been doing this thing for 10 years. You realize that the same exact mathematical skills and programming skills that it takes to create these incredibly rich games that children play with, the mathematics that it takes to build the algorithms, to paint those screens in real time, to react in real time, to have literally dozens of objects moving around the screen and interacting, or online, interacting in real time. Gaming actually represents a mirror of the mathematics that it takes to build this kind of business accuracy. And it also reflects the way in which human beings, in watching a game or in life, see insight, they see action, the way they perceive and the way that they interact. So this is the world that we live in. And I would like to just replay the video that Dr. Garaj Rao played yesterday about the policeman. So if you could just roll that video for a second, please. Because what I'd like to do is I'd like to explain a little bit about how that actually worked. Well, maybe we won't play that video.
Chasing bad guys. Now I see my work differently. We analyze crime data, spot patterns, and figure out where to send patrols. It's helped some U.S. cities cut serious crime by up to 30%. By stopping it before it happens. Let's build a smarter planet.
So now the question I have for you, how do you actually do that? What is the policeman actually doing? What you see here on the screens of the city are the kinds of police systems, as an example, that are being deployed today. You can, today, of course, have sensors, high-definition sensors, which are basically cell phone based. And they can be placed in different parts of the city. They can detect all manner of things, which includes movement. It includes things like gunshots. You realize that we are today placing sensors within cities. The sound of a gunshot has a very distinctive digital signature pattern. And you can identify those, and by triangulating from 3 towers, what you can do is you can immediately dispatch patrols or officers to the spot. And you realize that this is where the human aspect comes in. Gunshots typically do not occur in the premium neighborhoods. They occur in the neighborhoods where the willingness of the population to call in the fact that there was a gunshot is actually perhaps they could be concerned about whether they should do that. So when we have systems like that are able to detect, and not only that, be able in real time detect movement, and based on mathematical game-based algorithms, detect where the pattern of movement is and where to station the patrols to interdict. That's exactly the kind of world that we live in. And it's truly magnificent, along with all of the challenges that it fakes to do that properly. So, what I wish to remark upon that is that today, hyperscale companies in terms of data fundamentally are the ones we've all recognized that are the Googles of the world, Amazons, and the Facebook. But, of course, I think we all recognize, and I would predict within 2 years, if not less, that will be the hyperscale companies will be all of your clients, and they will be all of the potential clients that you have across all industries, because it is growing that fast. What we are seeing is not only in healthcare and in claims processing, but we're seeing it absolutely across the board, driven by mobile componentry and mobile devices. Now, there's been a great deal of study, and when you receive the chart deck, what you'll find is the chart deck that you receive is a more detailed version that has links to all of this information. Because what it tells you is things like the McKinsey report that not only we can have disk drives that can hold all the world's music compressed within a $600 disk drive. When we talk about the studies that have been done that identify $300 billion in the US alone in healthcare potential benefits, in Europe alone, 250 billion euros in better potentiality, and this is the big one. We ask ourselves, how do we create a sustainable world economy? $600 billion potential annual consumer surplus just by better use of geolocational data to make us more efficient. That's the tremendous opportunity. This is the thing that Raymond Kurzweil talks about creating a different answer that creates sustainability in our world. And the biggest one that I want to draw your attention to, this is a United States figure. In the United States alone, if nothing changes, by 2018 we will be short 140 to 190,000 data scientists, and we will be short 1.5 million managers who fully understand the richness of these possibilities, how to ask those questions, how to build the business models. That, of course, represents a tremendous opportunity, and I'm sure that if we created those numbers on a worldwide basis or we created it on an Indian basis, while there are certainly challenges, and this is not the kind of things you read a book and you just do, but the opportunity truly is endless. Now, is it changing the way that we compete? Well, the same study will tell you things. What this chart shows, the size of the ball represents the amount of contribution to the gross domestic product. This is a US diagram. What it shows you also is the ease of capture, high on this scale, as well as the value. So obviously, these here further to the right have the greatest value. Manufacturing has high ease of capture, but the reason that the value is low is because they have been capturing that data for actually a long time in the manufacturing process. But clearly, across the board, there is a large amount of information like this that tells you that the opportunity is real and how you would segment it by the industry that you focus in, by the particular geographic set, the way that you look. All this information is available, and all the links to all this information is in the deck that you will receive. So without a doubt, we see this huge amount of information and possibilities happening. And the numbers are hard to imagine. But what we all need to do together is to be able to put some reality into it. You can get a sense of it, but we need to have specifics, because I've got to build a business model around this. I need to understand how it is and where it is that I can move forward in time. And that's what we'll talk about how to do. Now, in order to do that, I do say interdisciplinary, because in order to understand how to do that, we have to greatly expand the spread of the things that we are aware of, because that's the way the world works today. Here we can see that broadband speeds are continuing to increase. This is the percentage above 500 kilobytes a second to the average household. This here shows the percent change, and you can clearly see that across the board the numbers are rising. As a matter of fact, if I look at a world map and say where is it today, the lighter the color on these charts, the higher the average internet speed to that particular location. Here you can see that according to Akamai, which is one of the world's largest content delivery networks, India, today the average end user connection speed is 974 kilobits per second. And of course you can go to, I've given you the links in the charts, you can interrogate any of your customers and see how that is trending in many different ways, just again, right off of the internet. So, it also tells you something about different countries of the world. The major thing to recognize is that this phenomena, let's quantify it. We can quantify that Cisco, which of course fundamentally owns the network traffic in the world, through its own tracking mechanisms and its publicly published information, has predicted that by 2014, just a short year and a half away from now, over 50% of all workloads are going to be in the cloud. And even in the data center, the cloud data center traffic itself will account for over 1/3 of all data center traffic. So while traditional IT is good, stable, and absolutely a powerful business, what we're talking about is the additional business model that we all clearly recognize is the future that we must expand. The business model. And yes, this gaming, of course, is interesting and important as well. But fundamentally, the realization that every cell phone on a 7-second granularity has given some telco provider an individual data point of where this individual is, and then tying that to what they may be doing, who they're texting to, who they're talking to, what the relationships are, is entirely possible to predict with a high degree of reliability where you will be at 5 p.m. next Thursday afternoon, who you might be talking to, what you might be buying, or what your preferences are. And as has been said, when it stops being just noise in the background, but when your phone says to you, starts coming to you, says, I know where you are, I know where you're about to go, I automatically will give you the alerts that you need, and you've said you'd like me to point out restaurants and gas stations, and we'll just automatically make it available to you. That, of course, removes the need to have to check it. So what I'm saying is that all of these things would absolutely be impossible without the cloud-scale infrastructure in the background that drives the front-end collection. Will mobile affect business models, which, of course, mobile created big data, and big data, in order to be housed, got put into internet-scale data centers. Will it? Well, yes, it absolutely will. So I think a valid question is so let's take a look at that a little more. What do I need to take away about that? What sort of wisdom can I apply in the whole context of everything we've talked about in this entire conference? Why has IBM offered, in partnership, the many things that we would like to partner together with to help us, you and us, mutually succeed in this world that we're talking about here? Well, let's look at that. Because the reason is because clearly, in the same way that these other things are happening, without a doubt, while traditional IT is not going away, but without a doubt, big data and cloud is on the disruptive path as well. It's only a question of what does it look like in our particular geography or our particular customer set, and what will the effect be on our business model, or actually I should turn that question around. What's the opportunity that I can create in combination with my partners for the opportunities of this world ahead? That's what I mean by interdisciplinary, because it's not just the same thing. It's being able to expand the stack. It's being able to understand something about the way this whole thing works together and be very current and knowledgeable about it. Again, the major point, though, that I want to leave you with is that it is not the traditional competitors that either us or you need to worry about. And I'll give you a couple of specific examples. You may think in your mind right now, who are the typical organizations that I compete with? Okay, you have that set. But you can also look back in time, and of course in the United States, Blockbuster, which was, it's still in business, but it used to be the largest place where you would go. And remember the days where you, and we still do in many places in the world, go in and you rent a physical movie and you take it home. And of course, in many places in the world now we start to do that electronically or DVD. But of course, Blockbuster itself, it said, that's an online video, that's a niche market, 2002. And of course, in a very short period of time, things did change. If we now, I want to give another example that is very pertinent to our world. You know, these are the two largest, 5 years ago, these were the two largest bookstores in the United States. And therefore, they were basically battling each other to become the place where people would buy books and drink coffee at the same time. Now, unfortunately, there was this little Seattle-based company that had this wild idea that maybe you would get on a website and maybe you would buy a book, which you couldn't physically see, but maybe we could do some things around recommendations, maybe we could do some things around giving you electronic previews. Maybe even, what if someday, given the fact this little rising line here is mobile, the decreasing lines, that one is newspapers and that one is newspapers and print. What if we came up with this idea of putting the book on a handheld device? And of course, as clunky as those things were then, they were inexpensive. And now you had two choices. Amazon and Borders had two choices. Borders had Barnes & Noble and Amazon now had two choices. Barnes & Noble took the investment route and they created something called the Nook, which while it's competitive to some extent, Borders didn't take that route. And those of you who have friends or family in the United States know that what is the state of Borders today? All 2,000 stores are closed. So what we want to do is recognize that we can just simply learn lessons from this and think about what it is that we could do for the future. And what does that look like? Because the customers today, clearly, given all of these types of things that we see, they very much recognize that there are alternatives out there. And these are not the ones that we, in the past, but I hope that you come away from this saying, aha, I have a wonderful new awareness of the possibilities because I bring a lot of things to the table that I want to, the major thing is that I can really cognize what I can do. So that comes in 2 steps. First step is just awareness, which is what we're doing today. And then coming after that is how do I work together to elevate that for the world. This entire conference, if you stop and think about all the presentations we talked about, are simply opportunities for you to creatively decide how you might want to blend in your own way to fully participate in this world to come. So therefore, let me now give you just perhaps a set of paradigms and a few things to take away with. And let this be the opening of a conversation, not the end. So I think we could certainly say, let's position ourselves to say this way. Here's traditional IT, and the size of the oval basically represents the size of the servers and storage that it takes to run that. Data warehouse is obviously a little larger, and then we have the big internet scale. And of course, what you can see is that, of course, what's important to recognize is the affordable amount of dollars that can be spent on a dollar per server, dollar per storage basis dramatically drops as we get into big data internet scale kinds of workloads and data center designs. So these are the current architectures and the growth areas, and we can diagram them in this way because we will never leave the traditional architectures. What we need to do is we want to interdisciplinarily look across these and be able to see the interconnects. You know, it's this whole idea of, if you look at patents that are being created today, they're all interdisciplinary in nature. What I mean by that is this. I'm holding this up. What do you see in my left hand? Most people would say 5 fingers, or 4 fingers and a thumb. You might also say what you see is 1, 2, 3 spaces, 4 spaces between the fingers, between the disciplines. And the value in the world today, as well as the innovation, is in the spaces between the different core strong competencies that we bring, but it's the blending of these together to create things that you can do all sorts of things, you know, with fingers. That's the opportunity that lies in front of us, to interconnect the things that we all do so well in new ways, novel packaging, and to understand that there will be new skill sets in addition to the traditional skill sets. The skill sets that work in the internet scale architecture, that's a whole discussion in itself, is what does an internet scale architecture data center truly look like in detail? Why is it that the operating system and the storage has absolutely no requirement for redundancy or availability at the operating system or the storage level? Why? Because it's all in the middleware layer that has implemented those capabilities. So that's an additional skill set, which is well proven today. And you can find very large numbers of young people that have been training in Hadoop-style infrastructure ever since they started in the university when they were 16. And by the way, some of those young people, by the way, both women and men, if you look in Silicon Valley, where I used to live until 3 weeks ago, for the first time you can see just as many hotshot young women doing programming as you used to see, where it used to be all just the guys. And for all of us, that's an interesting dynamicism as well. So while we continue to modernize the current traditional IT and do what we do so well, the opportunity is to architect future expandability, to create together with all of us the ability to connect these types of things together. And the main place that we'll start is by understanding and seeing, as we discussed the entire conference, how we might be able to partner together to generate those skills. Now, we do want to also understand this is a cultural shift. We want to look at these new opportunities as what they are. Feeds, ways to feed a tremendous amount of new business into the existing businesses that we have, because we have such a great core businesses and information in there, as well as making available information that would be valuable to these new workloads. At the same time, we need to understand the additional skill sets that I alluded to at a high level, and the opportunity is there, the partnership is there to be able to create this, and I strongly invite you to do so. Because as we successfully innovate new capabilities, at the same time we expand our understanding I'm also suggesting that in internet style, this is not the time to go to senior management and say, wait, the world is falling and we need to do something different. That doesn't work in the internet world. What you do in the internet crowdsourced world is you simply become the change that you wish to be. And I know, of course, one of the greatest men in the world said that. Gandhi said it. You want to be the change that you want the world to be. So from an IT standpoint, if our constituents, our colleagues start coming to us and say, why is it that you're so in tune with what seems to be happening? Why is it that you seem to be knowledgeable and able to do things and be able to talk to our clients about their mobile initiatives or their smarter commerce initiatives or their development initiatives, all these kinds of things in a new way? You can say, well, you know, please come in and join with me. We have some great things. You wouldn't believe the size of the opportunity that we could create here. And that's, of course, in an internet-style world, ends up happening. That's exactly what Google does. People come up with an idea, they start building it, and if you're good enough, you kind of attract people to it, and the world starts to change from within. So, I'll make a couple of suggestions. My observation has been as follows, because I would notice when I would talk to my clients and customers, there are two kinds of customers and clients. There's the set who are saying, you know, I'm just as confused as you are as to what's going on or what are we going to do about this. And then, of course, you would always see this kind of the set over here that they always seem to be 2 steps ahead. They always knew what the latest things were. They knew what it meant. They knew how it related. And my observation, confirmed by a great deal of others, is what is it that they do that creates that? And actually, it's more simple than you would guess. It is not by working longer hours. The first thing that they do every morning before they read email, before they start, is they spend an hour investing in keeping current at what happened just in the last 24 hours. Because it happens that quickly. Once a week is far, far too slow. And on a daily basis, and I have found when I started doing this myself, 1 less hour of email, somehow it didn't hurt my career at all, and the counterbalance of things I was able to bring in the remaining 7, 9, or 10 hours seemed to be much more rich and, frankly, a lot more fun. Now, I would say this is not something, of course, that you just do blindly. What I observed from these people is that every single one of them turned around and in an internet style would share what they found that they thought was important. They established a digital image or a personal digital image or digital footprint about what it is they were finding. Because in this way, of course, what were they doing? They were giving back to the world what they thought was useful. And then others who had similar interests would potentially follow them and pick up on it. And by the way, share back with the originator, with myself, things that they found. And now think about this. This is the kind of thing where instead of trying to watch the internet yourself, having 30, 40, 50, 100 of your good friends and colleagues, some of which you may never have met in person, but you know well digitally, interchanging with each other to help each other grow. And that's how we get ahead. That's exactly what it is we find. And by the way, don't email anything. We get too much email already. That's where things like social blogs and things properly and wisely used play the role. Oh, by the way, those are all mobile enabled as well. And it is useful. Whatever smartphone you decide to use, do become a power user of that phone's ecosystem and understanding what it is. Because more than anything else, it will tell you exactly what it is that the end consumer, the end point of your clients is fundamentally going to think about when they approach the world ahead through the window of this little 4-inch, 5-inch device. It's magnificent. So I'll simply offer to you as an example, so I've simply included here my personal version of that. Every single piece of research that I have discussed in this entire session is all bookmarked externally here for anybody in the world to see, whether they're a competitor of mine or not, but it's all just publicly available information. I'm giving it for all of you to do with as you like. And I invite you to look at that and then decide, use that as just one data point to create your own version or help create your own department version for yourself. So I believe we are on the cusp It has never been a time of greater challenge, but it has never been a time of greater opportunity. There has never been an opportunity that's larger than this to go from where we are to someplace magnificent that we could not even imagine. And it's only a couple of years in the future. It starts by understanding what it is that we've been talking about this morning. It starts by understanding what interdisciplinary means. It starts by being a partner with friends and colleagues that end up creating this world together. And in that way of identifying what it is that we're able to do, by fully recognizing the ones that I'm focusing on are the non-traditionals, the world for all of us is going to be a place where you can just start to see in the spaces in between things that you never recognized were there before. But you realize that's the opportunity for the future. So, I hope that this has been useful. I hope I have given you a sense of urgency, because that is absolutely essential. But also, it gives you an idea of the essential nature of partnering together. Because with that partnership together, all of us in this room, we have so much to gain and so little to lose. Thank you very much, and I hope that on behalf of our conference, I'd like to now turn it back to our MC, and we'll go on to the next thing. Thank you very much.